Welcome back to my channel, Statistics for Applied Linguistics. I'm Dr. Marnie Menegra, and in this video, we are going to look at the materials and procedure. So these are subsections of the method section. In the previous video, we looked at the sample or participants. So we will start today with the materials, and the materials are the tools used in the study, which includes the hardware. So this could be a tablet, laptop computer, the software, the program or the mobile app that was used, and any stationery such as pre-test, post-test done on pen and paper. You should also include the materials used along with data collection instruments. So this could be the testing or the questionnaires. And you can describe the tests and the questionnaires and how they were created, where actual copies of the blank tests and questionnaires should be in the appendices. If they are written in a language other than English, you should include the questions in with the translations as well. So there are internal validity threats due to instruments. The first one is low construct validity. So this is when the instruments contain a bias or measure a different construct. So if the pre-test and post-test are not related to the procedure, then you've got low construct validity. Instrumentation. The instruments are changed through the study. So you've got a validity threat if at first you're having the students fill out the pre-test with pen and paper, and then you have the post-test on a digital questionnaire. That can influence the results. There's also testing or sensitization. The testing and the measuring can change and provide an alternate explanation for the results. So let's look at the procedure. The procedure should describe exactly what was done in the order of the operations, and it should be explicit and clear so anyone can repeat the study. In this section, you're going to describe how the testing was completed and what the actions of the participants were. So creating a questionnaire. First, you need to determine the purpose of the questionnaire. Why are you doing a questionnaire? If it's a pre-questionnaire, just to determine the background variables of the sample. So this would be collecting data on who the participants were, such as their background information on first language, other languages they may speak, etc. Then you could have a pre-questionnaire and post-questionnaire study as well. This is used to collect information and perceptions where you're comparing them from the onset to the end of the study, often seen in intercultural competence studies or cultural knowledge studies. You could also create a post-questionnaire to gather information on the students' thoughts, feelings, and perceptions of the study. The length of the questionnaire. The length of the questionnaire matters. So it should have between 30 and 50 questions. Now, if the questionnaire is too short, you are not gathering enough data, especially if the data is on perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. If the questionnaire is too long, the results become less reliable due to questionnaire fatigue. And I've seen people using questionnaires that are 150 to 250 questions long. The questions at the end of the questionnaire are not as reliable because the participants are likely fatigued and their answers are not going to be as reliable. Now, for the types of questions, the questionnaire needs to measure what it intends to measure. So that is very important. If you're asking for background variables, you need only to ask a question once. So if it is just a pre-questionnaire that you have for background variables, this is the only case where the questionnaire could be quite a bit shorter. But if it is for perceptions, thoughts, beliefs, any of those sorts of questions, you need to have a much longer questionnaire. So if you're asking for perceptions or opinions, the question should be formatted in both positive and negative sentences. There should be 2 to 4 questions asking the same thing, but in different ways to verify the participant understood the questions. So as an example, I enjoyed participating in this study. I did not enjoy participating in this study. I liked participating in this study. Those are three different ways where the questions are quite similar. One is negative, so that is flipped. So also each question should be written clearly and should be unambiguous. You want to avoid and or statements. So if you have a question like, I enjoyed participating in this study, and I think that participating in this study is useful. That's a difficult one for some people to answer because maybe they didn't enjoy participating in the study but found it useful, or they did enjoy it but did not find it useful. So you're going to score the questions numerically, but you're going to flip the numbers for the negative questions. So if it's on a 5 scale, strongly disagree to strongly disagree would be a 1, strongly agree would be a 5, but for the negative questions, strongly disagree will be a 5 and strongly agree will be a 1. Now we're going to talk a bit about questionnaire validation, and part of this is because I often hear people confusing questionnaire validation with pilot testing a questionnaire. Questionnaire validation, if you're reading a research study that says they used a questionnaire that was validated in another study, that does not mean that the questionnaire is a good questionnaire, nor does it mean that the questionnaire is approved by anyone. A validation test like Cronbach's alpha or Krippendorff's alpha is used to verify that statistically the participants are responding in a similar fashion. And you need at least 100 tests done for a validation. So situations where you want to validate a questionnaire, this can be students in England responded to a questionnaire on their beliefs of learning, but then researchers in China want to prove that students in China have the same beliefs. So they validated the questionnaire with their students in China. You have a statewide exam and you have 100 teachers marking the exams. You want to make sure they're all marking in the same way so that the scores are fair. You would have them mark or grade 2 or 3 exams, run it through Cronbach's alpha and Krippendorff's alpha, verify that the grading or the marking is fair, and then the teachers can resume marking the rest of the exams. You have a team of researchers coding data, and you want to make sure that they're all coding data in the same way. You're going to have your 5 or 6 researchers fill out, do the coding for 100 items, and then you're going to run it through Cronbach's alpha or Krippendorff's alpha, verify that they're doing the coding in the same way, and then they can resume with the rest of the study. So what you're going to do for your master's degree is you're going to pilot test the questionnaire. And to pilot test the questionnaire, you need a panel of people that are going to help you to determine how long will it take to complete, whether the questions are ambiguous, whether the questions make logical sense, whether the questions ask what they're intended to ask, and are the questions organized in a logical order. The people pilot testing the questionnaire should be similar to the sample that you're going to send the questionnaire to. However, you are not going to include the data of the pilot testers in the actual study results. You pilot test to find out this information to make sure that the testing or the questionnaire works, and then you can move forward with the questionnaire. So when you're pilot testing, if you're working with older children or adults, you can put the questions into a Likert scale and they can grade it. I understood what the question was asking on a 10-point Likert scale, you know, if that could be a 7. And if you can see it that the numbers are a little bit low, then you can adjust those questions. Now, moving on from questionnaires, let's look at pre-tests and post-tests in a study. The pre-test is designed to have a baseline measurement, whereas the post-test is designed to show the growth from the onset of the study. The wonderful thing with the pre-test and post-test design is that it can account for confounding variables since the measurement is based on the growth from the baseline. Now, if I were just to give students in a class one language test, you're going to see grades all over the place. There's some that students are going to perform very high, some in the middle, some a bit lower. And that doesn't really give us a clear measurement of how they're really understanding the study. But if I do a pre-test to post-test, what I'm looking at is what is the average bit of growth for each of the students, regardless of where they were, whatever their score was on the pre-test. So this gives an accurate measurement of growth, not who would naturally perform the highest on the test. These tests are usually the same, and they must measure what they intend to measure. That is, they measure growth based on the task between the tests. And your pre-test and post-test also need to be pilot tested, just like your questionnaires. So creating a pre-test and post-test, again, they must measure what they intend to measure. And you need to ask related questions to minimize guessing. So if you have a multiple choice section, you can ask the questions, similar questions, 3 to 4 times. However, another way you can do this is you can, if you're testing vocabulary, you can have a multiple choice section, a matching section, a fill in the blank section, and a short answer section, all using the same vocabulary. And from these different sections, you'll get a good understanding if they understand the vocabulary. The tasks between the tests must be related to the test. So if you're having the students play video games, the Oxford test for English may not be the best test because it's not related to the vocabulary or the grammar structures within the video game. You would need to look at what's happening in the video game, and a test would need to be constructed to test for the related vocabulary and grammar structures. We also have mid-tests and delayed post-tests. So if your procedure spans over several months, which is unlikely for the master's program because you're trying to get everything done really in a short period of time here. But for those of you continuing on to a PhD, if you're doing testing over several months, you should have mid-tests halfway through or partway through to ensure there's progress. And that is your mid-test. A delayed post-test, this is when you're checking whether the participants retained the information beyond the study. So after the study concludes, you can do a delayed post-test. Now, it's going to be the same as the post-test, but you need several months after the conclusion of the procedure or later than that even. I had a student say that she wanted to do a delayed post-test 1 week after her post-test. That's not a delayed post-test, because a delayed post-test is checking to see if the information moved from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. And within 1 week, it doesn't give your brain the opportunity to transfer that information over. So this is usually 3 to 6 months after the post-test. So pre-test, post-test example, this could be making sure that students approximately 14 years are learning vocabulary. You can do a pre-test and a post-test to test that specific vocabulary. One of the students used driving because there wouldn't be a confounding variable because the students who are 14 years old in Spain are not yet taking driver's training. So between the testing, the students were instructed to either make videos to explain how to drive, or they were assigned to another group that were taught the vocabulary and structures using the grammar translation method. And again, using driving as an example that minimized the influence from confounding variables. A post-questionnaire is usually designed to collect qualitative data on the participants' thoughts, perceptions, and general feedback. It can be used to compare the responses to the pre-questionnaire, but with all the other tests, your post-questionnaire needs to be pilot tested, and it should be between 30 and 50 questions. And so here's an example of a pre-questionnaire, post-questionnaire, comparing cultural knowledge, where you can see that there's a difference based on the students' perceptions of their own empathy, on their knowledge of the other culture. So anything related to intercultural competence. And then for the students at URV, you then can have a final section in your method section for data analysis. The final part of your procedure will describe the data analysis that will be used in the results section. So you're going to explain which tests you're going to use. And this is going to help you to transition to the next chapter, which again is the results section. So thank you again for watching this video, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next video.